Hello!
Hey,
Hi guys! Hey, we're starting to sound like each other, that's a worry. It is day 103 of our lockdown, and that makes it the 1st of July. So we are officially halfway through 2020. What have you got next for us? Because...
Bring it on!
Yeah!
2020!
Like, I don't know, we've had, well, we talked about it a little bit on the live vlog, but we've had basically an insane year of insanity on top of catastrophes on top of bonkers. So yeah, honestly, I don't know what would happen next that would actually make me go like, oh wow, that's unexpected, because it's just like, okay, what's next, right? Come on then. It's just mental.
There's a lot of shit. Well, it's easy to forget how much shit went down before the
lockdown
pandemic.
kicked
Like
in.
they tried to impeach a president.
Yeah.
2 royals renounced their royalty.
Yeah.
Australia went on fire.
Yeah, and
Wales went underwater.
Yeah. The Australia going on fire, because actually, like, at the time, that was absolutely devastating and quite rightly making front page news and everything. They estimated, and this is an absolute tragedy, that they estimate around about 1 billion animals would have been killed in those forest fires. They were of a colossal scale. Literally, like hundreds of thousands of miles of Australia were burning, and that isn't even now sort of one of the main stories. Like, coronavirus has kind of taken the main stage.
I realised as you
but
were saying
then
that.
loads of other batshit bonkers awful things that in any other year would be the story of the year. And then there's a little background chorus of lots of bonkers little stories creeping up as well. There's one sort of slightly bonkers one that's a bit lighter that I did see today, that somebody was making light of it on Twitter. But basically, Pakistan has a major locust problem, which could potentially lead to famine. So obviously that's a concern. So China have actually been talking about basically sending over hundreds of thousands of ducks to eat all the locusts. And the response to it was, why are China stockpiling ducks? And then ... why aren't we stockpiling ducks? And then underneath that somebody had put, release the quacken. It's just like, well done.
It's a bit
but the fact
mad,
that whole countries could be at risk of famine, and we're just like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
But traditionally though, when they have sent animals in to deal with other animals, that has not ended well.
No.
They've tried doing that in Australia, it ended very badly.
Basically, it's a very bad idea. But actually, I do think that it's not that Pakistan don't have any ducks. It's just Pakistan don't have enough ducks.
Okay, but
so,
still, I mean, it still feels. It reminds me of that old lady who swallowed the fly.
Yeah.
And things didn't end well for her, did she?
Well, that was a very good scientific tale you're basing that on.
Things escalated quickly.
Well, no, that is true, because actually they fucked up Australia royally with so many things. One of the main ones, actually, because rabbits weren't introduced to Australia to deal with a problem. They were introduced for funsies, for hunting.
Like we got in grey squirrels. That wasn't to deal with a problem,
that
was
was
it? And then they
for
killed
the
all our red ones.
So that's just stupidity. But actually, cane toads is another big problem that they have in Australia, particularly in the Northern Territories, where they were introduced to deal with a pest problem. I think mosquitoes, but it may not have been. It was some sort of pest control. But they're not native, and they do very well. So unfortunately, there's literally just... They are a pest. There are millions of them, and there's no natural predators to them, and they just excel, which means things that should be doing well in that climate and that environment then die off, like our red squirrels, which thankfully there are little pockets where we still have them. They're not extinct, but the grey squirrels are better suited, and they fit the same niche. So usually that's how it works in sort of environmental science. Everything sort of finds its own niche. It finds its one little thing that it can do that nothing else does, and if then something comes along that fills the same niche, one of them will win.
Let's not try to upset the balance of nature, unless it involves introducing more domesticated cats.
Well, no, domesticated cats actually fuck everything up as well.
Are so cute, and we should all have more of them in all
I think
possible instances.
Most sort of environmental scientists in the UK would say, tell that to the stoats, weasels, voles, mice, birds that we used to have.
I can't, because I have not seen any locally.
Well, that's because of the domestic cat.
Don't know what is the issue there.
I am all for domestic cats, but I will fully acknowledge that they are an absolute scourge on... Because we did have a certain amount of wild cats, particularly like sort of feral cats, Scottish Highland cats and stuff naturally. But the domestic cat was not a local breed, and it fits a different niche. And they're such good hunters. We've fucked everything up there.
Can we just breed them to be more soppy?
That would, if we could somehow breed out the kill switch out of them.
It's hard to know though, because
that is part of the cute when they're kittens.
Our cat Ford seems very soppy, but then he brings in things that he's killed, so it's hard to judge.
Yeah, he's still got the brutal heart of a killer in him, but you just wouldn't guess that when he lets me like hold him like a baby, and he looks up at me with like, I've never seen a cat do this. He literally looks at you like he loves you, and I've never seen a cat do it so much. It's just like, oh. But yeah, he's still a brutal killer. All of our cats actually are quite... All my life I've had cats, but as it turns out, I've had rubbish cats that haven't been very good at hunting. And then I knew that cats hunted, and like my old cat Prue that I had for most of my childhood, she like every now and again would bring in like a slow worm. Never birds, never mice, never sort of things that were fast enough, really. Once in her entire life, she brought in a rat, and I was like, there's no fucking way you caught that. No way. Because you've literally never caught anything. You found a sick rat, is what's happened there. But yeah, she wasn't much of a hunter, so when I got Poppet and Totem, I was not prepared for the death. And then, like, they have calmed down because they're about 5 now, and I think, like, they still do hunt, but I think it's less of a sort of pent-up aggressive energy that they've just... So now they're a bit more happy to laze about and sort of only if something actively crosses their path, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll get a bit of that. But just in time for that sort of them to calm down, we got the 2 kittens, and now they are in full swing. They're not quite a year old now, they're about sort of 10, 11 months old now, and they are quite ruthless.
So we do love our cats, but we do wish they were a bit more rubbish.
Yeah.
In that one particular area.
That one aspect, yeah. But that's the reality of having domestic cats. So, because there are, and I see where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's like, oh God, guys, you've got to have some joy in life. I'm on a bunch of vegan message boards, usually for like recipes and tips and stuff. But some of the vegans, man, like, I get it, guys. I get why we've got a bad rep, because we're awful. But yeah, like vegans are awful to other vegans, and like somebody mentioned on there some sort of like is there anything I can do to stop my cats hunting, because they keep bringing things in and I feel awful, which I can relate to. And then a whole bunch of holier than thou vegans go, well actually if you're a true vegan you shouldn't have pets that are carnivores, and you're just like, I'm vegan because I like animals, so that means I'm not allowed to keep animals. Fuck off. So yeah, like if the constructive advice could be maybe think about keeping them indoors, or maybe like, you know, you play with them a lot at dawn and dusk is one of the other things. Like there are constructive things that you can do. Just telling people don't have cats that they've already got is just stupid. Shut up. So yeah, guys, like I know I'm one of them, but I'm not one of those ones because I'm not a dickhead.
And I'm not one of those ones either, because I eat meat.
Yeah.
And
you're
cheese.
a different kind of dickhead.
Yes. Agreed.
Love you. But you're a dickhead.
We've had quite a chilled day today, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, actually, I've been quite productive. So how dare you? No. No, it's not. It's been.
I did a bit of hoovering.
Yep. I've basically been getting a bit down about how much of a fucking tip this house is. And so today I was like, I'm going to break the back of tidying it, because the thing is I can't even clean it properly because it's messy, and it's like it's just got out of hand. So it's not even like I can get it all tidied in one day and then clean it. But actually, we should mention, actually, after we're allowed to, so after the 6th of July, which is Monday, that's when the 5-mile travel ban gets lifted. So we have actually, a friend of ours, well, my brother's girlfriend, has sorted us a cottage that we can go to, a little Airbnb that we can go away to for a few days. So we're going away next week. So what I am going to do is, while we're away, have my cleaner that I have missed dearly. Usually, like, she comes in once a week, and so she has about 10 to 20 quid a week, depending on how much needs doing. I'm just going to go, like, there's about 12 weeks worth of cleaning to do, but, like, can you just, like, come for a whole day while we're away, and I can just come back to a clean house? Because, oh God, it's getting to me, man. I think I'm not naturally that tidy, but an untidy environment starts to creep into my stress levels, because I can't find anything and everything feels cluttered, and then I feel like enclosed. So then it's just like, well, if I'm not going to do it, I've got to pay someone to do it.
When I said,
and I can't pay someone to do it at the moment because they're not allowed in. What?
Are they still not?
No, they're allowed in now, but you're not allowed to be in the house at the same time. You've got to do all the social distancing stuff. But I figure if we're not in the house at all, that's fine. She can just come in, clean everything.
I mean, what I meant when I said we'd had a chilled day, I guess what I meant more specifically, and this is my fault, I worded it badly, is that we hadn't necessarily done interesting and exciting things to talk about.
Right.
And while I understand that saying we've had a chilled day might...
That suggests
might have undermined your productivity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure tidying the house, negates my other concern about it.
Well, I'm just saying it's not chilling out, is it?
No, it's not. It's not chilling out. I'm just not sure it's,
I don't quite know what you mean.
I'm just saying I'm not sure how much we can get out of it vlog-wise. Is what I'm saying. I don't know how much we've done to kind of talk about.
That was fine. We've got plenty to talk about.
No, we've got plenty to talk about. I was just saying, like, we had quite an uneventful day.
Right. Okay.
I guess chilled is the wrong way of putting it. But
we've got plenty to talk about.
Yes.
Because we can talk about some of the real world stuff that we keep not getting around to talking about.
Yes. I've mostly been reading Planet Hulk. That's mostly been my day. Yeah.
I've mostly been doing housework.
But
you have walked the dog.
I did, and I did do some of the hoovering.
You did.
But Planet Hulk.
You just let yourself in for that one. Like, it's just like, literally, I've just said that I've been doing housework and the mess in the house is making me stressed out, and you've gone, been reading lots of comics.
Read
into that what you will, guys.
Really helps with the stress. That's all I'm saying. I've made her some recommendations, and I've not seen her pick them up once. So. Oh,
he'd get in trouble. He'd get in such trouble. That is such bullshit. Look at him. He looks like, I'm going to be in trouble. No.
I'm cooking dinner.
That wouldn't fly.
Yeah. So.
But
you need to keep me sweet because that's where the food comes from.
I cooked the other night. You didn't hear me going on about it on the vlog, did you?
I should go on about it on the vlog actually, because Ellie did a Thai green curry, and we got 2 meals out of it as well, each.
Yeah, we had it for dinner. We had it at lunch the next day.
That was really nice.
I was quite happy with it actually. This is sort of what I mean. I can cook. I'm quite a good cook. I just don't enjoy cooking, and you do, so I let you quite happily.
Yes.
Cooking to me is a means to an end.
Sometimes I enjoy it more than others, but yes, broadly speaking.
Yeah. I wasn't sure about it because, like, it was a bit sort of a mishmash of what we had in, and you did go to the shops to get a few extra bits, but I had made it before for you and you'd really liked it, and I was like, it's a bit different this time because I'm using different vegetables, it might not be as nice. But yeah, it came together. While I was cooking it, I was like, oh fuck, I've accidentally made this a bit hot, but actually as sort of time went on, it calmed down. I think to begin with, when you've just freshly put the chilies in, sometimes it packs a bit more of a punch, and then I think the coconut milk mellowed it out enough. But it was pretty nice actually. I was pretty happy with that.
It was pretty nice.
So yeah, I can't share the recipe because I kind of wing it. I kind of look online at sort of a few different ones and then kind of go, right, I'll wing it off that. So there isn't one, sorry. But yeah, it's quite easy.
Looks good as well. That is something I would say, even though Ellie doesn't cook very often, when she does cook, she maybe has a gift for presentation that I don't always.
I don't know. Your food usually looks pretty good.
Oh, I don't know. But
I do bother with a pretty garnish, and I think that makes a difference.
I guess my main point is that Planet Hulk is really good, and I would recommend it to everyone. And I think it's an epic tale in which Hulk goes on what you could describe as the classic hero's journey. And I can say that not just because I have an English degree that makes me capable of close critical reading, but also because it says it right there in the introduction.
Right, okay.
But yeah, I recommend it.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, because you were so looking forward to it that if it had been a letdown, I think you'd have been stroppy.
It's 2 volumes. There's another called World War Hulk by the same author later in the run. So if I hadn't enjoyed it, I'd have been like, oh god, it's this long.
So should we talk about some of this real world stuff? Being as we're 15 minutes in. So
real world. Our friend Ian has been more productive than either of us because he's organised his Weird Al Yankovic.
You're in a funny one today, aren't you?
Yeah, he's organised his Weird Al Yankovic card collection into a display folder, and I mentioned
Why
this.
is there? I didn't know there was such a thing as a Weird Al Yankovic collector's.
Do you know who Weird Al Yankovic?
Yeah, I know who Weird Al Yankovic is, but why? What
in case anyone doesn't know who Weird Al is, he does he's a musical comedian. He does largely song parodies. I think he also does some original songs, though, in case anyone wants to.
Famously big parodies, though, isn't it?
Another one stops the bus. I think it's
Rides the Bus.
Rides the Bus. There you go.
And
Eat It is a parody of Beat It by Michael Jackson. I think that probably arguably his most famous one.
Well, the first one I thought of was Another One Rides the Bus, actually. But there's quite a few, and they're really good. They don't come to mind at the moment. But so are the cards based on songs he's done, or what?
There was some of them seem to be
I've
based
never
on
known
songs,
a single person have a collector's card thing.
That's why it fascinates me. Just the existence of this collection boggles my mind, and I'm glad that Ian has it, and it brings him pleasure, and I'm glad he's managed to find the time to get in his display folder. But it wouldn't have occurred to me that one man, a comedian, is a person that would have a trading card collection.
I'm quite intrigued. I want to know what sort of stuff's on the cards.
Some of my interests are a little bit niche.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I wish I knew more people that were into those interests that I could have, conversations with, go to the pub and have a pint.
I wish you did too.
Talk about these things, or have some friends come round who want to watch the wrestling with me, or things like that.
No, I don't actually mind watching the wrestling.
Of that nature. But,
sort of, I don't know, talking about it at length, I might struggle.
All very well, you're a big Weird Al fan.
Yeah.
And you think, I'm such a big Weird Al fan, I'm going to start getting the trading card collection. And me and all my mates start trading. I mean, who...
Oh, you're trading those with? That's really neat. That's sort of the thing about trading cards, isn't it? They need to be popular enough so that there's people to trade them with. But that's just a buying card collection, isn't it? That's just you buying all the cards.
I feel like if I started collecting, even a popular thing like Marvel Comics or WWE. I'd struggle to find people to actually trade those cards. I mean, I suppose these days you could probably do it online, but that seems like not as much fun.
Yeah.
That's
not the game.
I'll buy a pack of 6 cards, and what ones have you got? Right, well, I'll send you this one through the post, and you can send me the other. It's not. Anyway.
Yeah, I never really did them. I think I never really had anything. Oh, actually, Pogs. I did collect Pogs when I was... So for anyone who is too young or too old, for that matter, they were very much a thing in the sort of early 90s. Probably carried on throughout the 90s.
Yeah, mid to late 90s.
Well, I remember playing them in junior school, which I left when I was 11, so
right, show off.
10. No, I was 10 when I left junior school. I didn't repeat a year or anything.
Alright, show off.
Neither did you.
No, that's true.
But that's
true.
Pogs,
I also didn't.
For those who don't know, were little cardboard discs that had different designs on them, and they'd be a collector. Well, they'd be a sort of a collection each year, I think, or each sort of set of collections, and then there'd be a hard sort of usually metal or thick plastic one, and you'd stack them. and then you'd hit them with the plastic one, and the ones that flipped over you'd keep. So it was a game that you played with them, but usually people would either play for fun or play for keeps, or you could sort of trade them with each other to try and collect the whole collections. That's what we did in the 90s. We didn't have the internet.
Let's make your own fun back in our day.
But
little bits of cardboard.
Shall we talk about some real world stuff? Because it's
Football
actually
stickers.
Oh god, damn it!
I tried to get into football stickers a bit.
You don't even like football.
Well, that was my problem, right? Because I'd be like, well, it's such a pervasive thing on the play. Everyone's got these football stickers. I want to join in, so I get a couple of packs. But then I would have no idea which ones were valuable or worth having, or even which ones I might want. So I don't know. You have these ones, and I'd end up with all the crap ones. Anyway, real world.
Right.
Finally, can we do some real world talk?
Right. Can we though?
Can we though? Finally, actually.
Right. Okay. Please. Right.
Please.
Okay. So.
If you would.
Right, I'll start with some of the not so good stuff.
Yes, when you're ready.
So yesterday, at the end of yesterday's vlog, we sort of ran out of time as ever. So I wanted to go into, because we hadn't really, done an update on where we're at in the UK in terms of the numbers right about now. Because sort of earlier in the vlog, obviously, the daily numbers were vital in terms of knowing where we were in terms of what? You're making a very strange face at me.
I'm
what?
Smiling at you.
You're doing that at me.
Just biting my lip. I just love you.
I love you too, but what is going on with you?
Will you stop derailing this? Do your thing about the numbers.
Right, so yeah, it was very important to talk about the numbers daily, just to sort of see where we were at, whether things were increasing, decreasing, staying the same, etc. So they were generally something that we were mentioning most days, if not every day, whereas that's kind of trailed off, I guess, as the numbers have sort of declined, because they're declining much more slowly than they were increasing, and we know we're past the peak and it's all sort of calming down, but obviously we're still not talking about sort of minuscule numbers. That is important to check. For example, I double checked sort of so that you've got an idea. Yesterday and today 829 new cases confirmed. Yesterday 689. Sorry, yeah, today was 829. Yesterday was 689. Yesterday had 155 deaths. Today 176 deaths. So there's still hundreds of people dying. Several hundreds of people dying per week. So this is very much not gone away. And the released numbers of the current UK death toll as per the government figures, which they're using deaths after a positive COVID test. The numbers that we're currently at today are 43,906, which is huge, obviously. However, as most statisticians have said, it's not really a fair estimate, and the best way to actually look at this in terms of the impacts coronavirus has had is better to look at it in terms of how many more people have died at this time in the year that would have died in a 5-year average of the last few years. If we look at that, the number is 65,200. So that's not necessarily to say that 65,000 people have died of coronavirus, but 65,200 more people have died by this time in the year than normally would, which is a hefty old number. Obviously, there will be knock-on effects of lockdown that will be having an effect on deaths by other causes. To an extent, some more people will have died of other things because they perhaps should have sought medical advice but didn't because of things that are going on. There have been several unfortunate encounters of sort of people having chest pains and not going to A&E because they don't want to go to the hospital, and unfortunately having heart attacks and strokes and things like that. But also the flip side of that, the sort of social and sort of activity things that we normally do have changed. So there will be fewer deaths in car accidents, fewer deaths by drink driving, things like that, because people aren't out and about. So you can't really sort of say, oh, well, there's been more of this and less of this, but you can say, well, overall, this number more people have died than we would have expected to. So they're not small numbers. When you look at the numbers compared to some other countries, they were shocking and awful in comparison. But as I say, other countries have taken the baton and run with it. Particularly, I'm thinking of the States, which has over 100,000 deaths at this stage and rapidly rising. So I think they are now probably looking at being the epicenter of this for a while, but we're not doing great over here. One thing that is, well, there's two things that I've got that are, in terms of sort of coronavirus news, positive news. For the first time this week, the average number of total deaths by any cause in this country is lower than what you'd expect it to be for the 5-year average. Fewer people have died within the last week than you'd normally expect, and that is the first time that has happened since early February. So that sort of suggests that this is becoming under control, and maybe, yes, those deaths that would have happened by other causes aren't happening because of lockdown, and the NHS and sort of healthcare support is working so well that it's handling the coronavirus people, but also the people who need medical attention for other causes, and actually things in that term are going well. More locally, there's some very good news. In terms of Wales, early in the pandemic, which we mentioned on here a few times because we are in Newport, the Royal Gwent Hospital, which is, well, it's in town, it's walking distance from here really, was one of the hardest hit hospitals in all of Wales. And actually, I think at one point, one of the most hardest hit in the whole country. I think at times, Newport and London were vying for having the most COVID cases, which is astonishing when you look at the population London has compared to us, but I guess they've got several hospitals rather than just one. But it was astonishing the kind of numbers we were looking at, and the scenes that were coming out of the Royal Gwent Hospital were pretty stark and scary. For example, all of the wards that were closed for any non-essential sort of elective things had all been turned into COVID wards, as had their normal capacity in intensive care was, I think, 12 beds, and they increased that to about 46. And 46 people in intensive care at any one time is astonishing in quite a small, well, it's not a small hospital, but it's not a sort of big city hospital. So it was pretty stark here for a while. They have announced in the last few days that currently in the Royal Gwent Hospital there are no active coronavirus cases whatsoever, which is brilliant. That is such good news locally, because it's a very good indicator of how much of it is in the population. Obviously there could be people within the population that have it that aren't ill enough to be in hospital. There could be many people in the population who are asymptomatic. It doesn't mean it's gone, but it's certainly a good indicator that it is very much sort of suppressed here. And with the no travelling beyond 5 miles rule, you would assume once you've got it nipped in the bud in a population, the amount of it coming in or out should be very low. Other than with sort of key workers and essential travel kinds of things, you'd expect once you've got rid of it in a population, if people aren't travelling in or out, it'll stay gone.
Well, it's very encouraging. I think sometimes, like, you know, we've been a bit cynical about some of the government figures and government advice and some of the things that have been happening.
More on that later.
It might seem that we're, you know, at times like we have been dwelling on the negative or whatever, but we actually are very happy to have a bit of positivity and things and a bit of hope and everything. And actually today, walking the dog, I mean, if I'm going out, I'm still going to be sensible. I'm still going to wear a mask if I'm going to the shop. I'm still going to keep my 2 meters distance from everyone. But I was out walking the dog today, and it was busier than it has been in some time. Lots of people out walking their dogs, and I just felt a lot less kind of anxious about it than I have been some of the times during the height of the pandemic, when it's busy and you're just very aware and just sort of a bit anxious about.
And actually, that's also quite a good testament to sort of mental health stuff, because actually we've mentioned on here that the last sort of few days we have been struggling a bit with anxiety anyway. So the fact that you can sort of go somewhere that previously would have been quite anxiety making and it not be an anxiety trigger right now is very positive. It does mean it's not something not to worry about, but it is. It allows a bit more breathing space. It allows you to be sort of aware rather than actively anxious, which is a good place to be considering how bad it has been and how bad it could be. So we've got to take the positives where we can get them, and I think that's one that we should sort of grab with both hands and say thank you very much. So yeah, really positive there. I think that's in terms of local news. Obviously, the people of, say, Leicester having a very different time of it. So they, as I've mentioned, are the first place in the UK to have a localised stricter lockdown than the rest of the UK. So initially they were saying we might just leave them as they are rather than further easing restrictions, and then they went, no, actually we're going to have to go even stricter. So they've gone back to essentially no non-essential shops, no nothing else, basically no schools, just key workers, everybody else stay in. Whereas everybody else is sort of actually now, I think on the 4th, which is Saturday, is when pubs can open and things like that with social distancing measures in place, etc., etc. So Leicester is having a localised lockdown because it has a significant outbreak there. Now, Boris has had some stuff to say about this today. You actually read the story, but basically Boris and his cronies have come under criticism for the fact that Leicester wasn't locked down sooner.
Well, Keir Starmer was taking him to task, wasn't it, at Prime Minister's Question Time? Basically saying, well, why didn't this happen 10 days ago?
Because there was a spike 10 days ago, 11 days ago, I think he said, actually.
Right.
And there was a spike 10 days ago. Across the board with all of this, it's just been, why have you been so slow to do things? The stats were there, the evidence was there. Now, Boris has been cooking the books again, essentially. In his Prime Minister's Question Times, he bumbled and blustered and actually lied or...
Well, he claimed, we sent
additional testing teams, and people of Leicester didn't go get themselves tested, and what could we have done, guys?
Basically put the blame on the people of Leicester, but what they didn't do was ever provide to Leicester the second pillar figures.
Well, I'll explain what that is.
Ellie will explain in a second, but what it basically meant is no one in Leicester had any idea how bad it was.
What they have been doing nationally, and what they've been criticised for several times and doing it in several different ways, is essentially releasing figures that make them look better than they actually are. So although they have now introduced self-opting-in testing, so the ones that you can do by post or you can go to a drive-in testing centre. They've released that across the country. Anybody who, they're recommending anybody who has symptoms can recommend the test, although if you're ordering them online, I guess actually if you were just worried that you were asymptomatic, nothing would stop you ordering one. So you can get yourself tested, you can go to a drive-through centre and get yourself tested there. And secondly, they've got the tests that they are actually sort of carrying out in clinical settings, so key worker testing in hospitals and care homes, etc., and the sort of hospital patient testing and all of that. They've only been releasing the data for Pillar 1, which is the clinical / key worker testing that they've been doing all along. So all of the testing that anybody can opt in for, they've just been keeping them out of the figures that they've been releasing. All of the data that was worrying data coming out of Leicester was all Pillar 2. The Pillar 1 testing, nothing has spiked. It looks basically the same as it has for the last few weeks. But the Pillar 2 data, which is how much of it is in the population that may not have actually gone to a clinical setting yet, has exploded. And it exploded 11 days back and is now looking quite stark in comparison. And essentially, they withheld this data. They even withheld this data from Leicester local authority, who could have done something with it, because actually he has given sort of the go-ahead for local authorities to make their own decisions, but he's not giving them the full information. So what decisions can they be expected to make if they don't have all the information? And the critique, as ever with all of this, is they are sort of cooking the books to make themselves look good and trying to not release certain figures because they look bad. But the thing is, that's only going to work for a day or two, and then later the effects of you withholding that information will come to light, and then you look worse for not telling people in the first place. So I can't see how it's anything other than incompetence, because this isn't callous and uncaring. This is literally in the moment, oh, this looks bad, so let's just not tell them, without any thought of, oh, well, won't it look worse later, though? Anyone would know that, well, hang on, if we sort of basically withhold information that leads to additional deaths, won't that look worse than if we say, oh, hang on, guys, we haven't got this as in control as we thought, maybe let's be a bit stricter about it. So they've just gone, no, let's just not do anything and hope it goes away on its own. That seems to be the policy. Let's just hope it isn't as bad as it looks like it's going to be. And that's just not really fucking good enough, is it, guys? Like, bless your optimism, but it's bullshit. But yeah, it's really, really worrying that they've allowed it to explode somewhere. Because it could have been that actually if they'd gone, oh, no, we maybe need to roll back your lockdown 2 weeks ago. Because as we know, with the way this explodes, once it explodes, it really goes for it. Because of how many people are asymptomatic, they're passing it around, and we shouldn't be mixing, but obviously there are some situations where people are having to mix and not always able to keep the 2 meters, or not always keeping the 2 meters even if they were able. And so this is all like because this is all exploded even under what were the eased lockdown restrictions that England had that Wales did not, which were sort of schools open. I wonder if schools opening has had a big impact on this, because it seems that so many children are apparently asymptomatic when they have it. Once the schools open and all the kids are mixing, that's got to have a knock-on effect with the adults they then go home to. So forget all your bubbles that you're allowed to mix with. If you've got kids in one of those bubbles that's going to school, you might as well be mixing with hundreds and hundreds of people, because that's what kids aren't social distancing like they're supposed to. Come on, they're like 5.
It's so weird because
adults can't do it.
We've been basically here on our own in the house, and we've done the occasional kind of garden visit. We're socially distanced, whether visiting your parents or having people around here, and maintaining social distance and doing all the things. And so it still feels quite kind of stark of like, it's mostly just the two of us, and occasionally there's another person at a slight remove that we can talk to, and then they go away again. And it's just so weird to kind of remember, oh, but some people now have kids that are going to school and are just mixing with all these people, and presumably they have to go and drop off and pick up these kids. So I don't know how you maintain social distance.
Yeah, because I think like to be fair, this isn't a criticism of schools. Schools are doing the best they can.
No,
but,
yeah.
So there will be like once the kids arrive at school, it's hand washing and all of that. But the thing is, even if you're hand washing every 20 minutes, if you've actively got it, and you're asymptomatic, and you're in a space and you're breathing the same air, there's going to be droplets circulating in the air that are just going to be passed around. So, like, yes, the hand washing is the best thing that you can do, particularly if you've coughed into your hand and then you're touching stuff. Like, that's grim. But even if you've got it already, doesn't really matter if your hands are clean, because you're breathing it onto people.
But I just forget there are people, like, we're kind of closed off in a way, and some people even more so than us if they're shielding and things, but or if they're on their own in a house. But like I sort of forget there are some people who do have to go to work because their work is essential, or because they can't not, because things are reopening, and then so they're going to their jobs, their kids are going to school, their partner's going to their work,
their colleagues have got kids maybe in school, and it doesn't,
there's just
like
so much like that is kind of still interacting, and I don't know, like in supermarkets I'm trying to keep my distance from people. If I go to the supermarket for like, if I'm there for half an hour, you know, grabbing bits off the shelf and things, and then there's people moving around, I'm trying to keep my distance. But if you're a member of staff in those supermarkets, you have to spend all day, you know, hoping, you've got specialists hoping people don't break social distancing. Particularly if you're on like a checkout, which I think they've put like screens up and things, but you're going to be touching all the stuff that the people have touched. I assume they're wearing gloves, but we've said about with wearing gloves, if you're wearing gloves and you don't change them often enough, they're just as bad as not wearing gloves, and because in fact worse, because you won't feel the residue or anything on your hands, and because you're wearing gloves you start to behave as though, oh, I'm safe because I'm wearing gloves. So yeah, people working on checkouts, actually I feel probably, because in supermarkets, at least if you're supermarket staff but you're like on the floor, you can keep your distance, somebody can come, I'm sure that people will come up close to you, too close to you, but you can at least then sort of step back. If someone leans in too close to you and you're at a checkout counter, what are you supposed to do? The other thing is, I've not seen anyone in supermarkets, staff-wise, wearing masks. I've not seen a lot of customers wearing masks, to be honest. But I don't know if, well, what I'd be curious about is, are they allowed to wear their own masks, or is it some sort of policy that they're not allowed to? I
don't know. I imagine it would be a case by case basis. But I don't know. I would assume if it was policy that you had to, they would have to provide it, and they would all be wearing it. With it, because actually, almost everybody can wear masks. So there's quite a lot of the anti-mask brigade going on about in America that is against my First Amendment right or whatever. Basically, almost everybody can wear masks and it not be a problem, as proven by the fact that surgeons wear them all day, every day in their normal job. So like there's people talking about like getting like hypoxic from breathing in too much of their own carbon dioxide that they breathe out because it gets trapped in the mask. It's like she's saying you're breathing in oxygen through the mask and you're breathing out, and then all the carbon dioxide is staying in the mask, you fucking moron. That's like, it's just not what's happening. But anyway, but sometimes people with existing breathing difficulties, just that extra little bit of sort of pressure that you've got to use to breathe in, of course. And so some people can't wear masks. That's fair enough. People who wear glasses actually struggle with masks, as you will have noticed, because they tend to not be like tight to the nose, and when you breathe out you then get condensation on the inside of your glasses. But that's not, you can't wear them, that's just, it's a ball ache to wear them.
Yeah, don't necessarily enjoy it,
but yeah,
especially when it's been hot weather like it's been recently, but
it's not pleasant, but you know, it's not the end of the world, guys. It's not, but like, because there's lots of places in America, that are saying like, well, you're not allowed to come in unless you're wearing a mask, and then there's people kicking off, and you're like, well, it's their shop. It's up to them who they let in their shop. If I own a business, I own a business. If somebody turns up who I don't want to let in, I have every right in the world to say no, you can't come in.
On planes, you've got to wear masks as well.
Yes.
In America, although. Someone I know shared a photo.
Is this the MAGA man? The MAGA hat. The Make America Great Again.
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Just a photo kind of saying this is why, you know, we're going to struggle to get this pandemic under control in this country. This is the US they were talking about. And it just had a photo of a guy on a plane wearing one of those Donald Trump Make America Great Again hats. And he had a face mask on, except that he had pulled it up to make it an eye mask so he could sleep on the plane. Thus exposing his mouth and nose. And then he's asleep, just sort of snoring and snorting and breathing away, presumably, like no awareness or control of what he's doing with his, you know, orifices.
Right. No awareness of his orifices. No. None. Oh, right. So they basically, that's been quite a waffly way of sort of updating you on what's actually going on in the UK. So that's where we're at. So we'll be back tomorrow for the 2nd of July for day 104, and as I mentioned, a couple of days, 3 days next week, we will have some sort of different backdrop. We'll be recording it on one of our phones and uploading from there, so we'll be blogging from England.
And I don't know if we'll still be able to get it up at the same time.
Yes, because I will upload it again the night before, so I'll schedule it. So it's a bit of a ball ache, because actually I'm not sure how well I can schedule it. So it might be that I can't get it up at 10, but it will be up by 10.
Also, if you're watching this tomorrow morning, it means that...
being Thursday the 2nd.
Yes, then Thursday evening at 9 o'clock is the latest episode of Forza Crowd.
And I'm in it again.
Yes, that's the panel show that I've been doing, and Ellie.
I am like the spare guest that you keep in the cupboard and roll out if needed. But yeah, basically somebody else has had to drop out, so I've been recruited. So I'll be your teammate again tomorrow on Forza Crowd, but we don't know whether or not you'll be able to be on it next week. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, because we might be on holiday, but we are going to be kind of on holiday, but we don't know if we'll have the tech to be able to sort this out.
A fancy. We're not taking the computer.
These will definitely continue, but Forza Crowd, I might have to have a break one for a week. But if it goes ahead, still watch it anyway. They might have a guest on instead to replace me for the week. So also. It's live streamed tomorrow at 9, or tonight at 9 if you're watching this tomorrow morning. Oh, it's so confusing. But
they're in the future.
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
You don't know that reference, surely.
It's from Doctor Who.
Yeah,
David Tennant's Doctor Who. I watched all that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, right, love it.
Well, most of it. I don't know if I. And what? Anyway, point being, if you miss it.
You can watch it afterwards.
Yes, all the episodes are still available to watch. Yes. So check them out, and there are links to those on my Facebook page.
Please, though, specifically for me, because I am not a comedian and I'm playing with the comedians again, some friendly faces in the comments would always be appreciated. So it'll be 9 o'clock tonight, Thursday, the 2nd of July. It's July today.
July. Why July?
Why July? So yeah, see you there hopefully, and otherwise we will see you back here tomorrow for day 104 of lockdown. So in the meantime, like and subscribe. There's no shame in it whatsoever, guys. None.
No shame in it, you pricks.